Yeah.
This hangout is on the air. Welcome, whoever's interested and whoever's watching. This is practice for Shawnee, but it's real for Angie, and it's real for me this morning. We're going to record this a little orientation on the subject of call calendar policies and procedures. I have a little form here. Angie's got a copy, and we're going to go over it. I don't know if you can read it or not. It's on the screen, but we're going to kind of go over it line by line and explain what this means and what it is, and maybe be able to use this recording for future reference for those that can't attend and they're still needing to know about it. So, Angie, you and I are going to have the conversation.
Okay.
I'm going to stay up here so we can, I can point to these guys because I'm talking to you too out there in YouTube land. And so, number one, it says, what is an opportunity call? Well, it's when a potential buyer or seller has contacted the office and they have not called for a particular agent or property. Make sense? Not attached. And we get calls like that because people over the years have come and gone and sold to somebody a property or helped in some way their family. They call the office and the person's no longer here or is retired or any number of things, but they still need help. This call can come anytime during the day. It can come on the weekends, evenings, what have you. And so that's what one's called. So number B, there are many occasions that the caller just asks questions that the call coordinators are not licensed to answer. So Cheryl been up there 25 years, but she does not have a license. So that means she can answer certain questions. We just need a realtor, somebody with a license, to just get on the phone and say, how can I help you, and walk them through it. So they just need some occasional help. That's what happens along the way. So let's look at, how do you qualify to be on the opportunity call calendar? And let's see here. We're watching. Shawnee's on. I see you, Shawnee. I'm sitting here in Oklahoma City. I see you. Thanks for joining us. Now, how do you qualify? A, this is not in concrete, all of this, but it is the general guideline. So Angie, in your case, you've closed, I don't know how many houses, 15 or 20, something in there?
25-ish.
25 houses in your real estate career.
Yeah.
And we were just discussing before you came in here that you haven't had a night yet. Well, that's pretty good. I've managed to do 25 without Dawn helping them. You get that?
That's not true. I have had
She has been in focus groups routinely and almost every week since that time, and has taken advantage of some of our training. So here's one: participate in the opportunity call briefing and sign a written agreement acknowledging the opportunity call policy. That's number one. Well, that's what Angie's doing this morning. Now, she may not sign this, but she's here and she could. And at the bottom of this piece of paper, there's a place to sign it. That's what I've got up on the screen up here. And I wish you could see it clearly, but it's 12 font. Probably can't read it from where you're sitting. Now, that's why we're reading it. So this little experience is part of it. Then attend a minimum of one team meeting or training event each month and log in your attendance. So when we have a team meeting, we pass a little device around, or we have a sign-in sheet. We just want you to register there so that we know you've shown up for at least one in a month. One of the team meetings, either the local one or the combined one, or a training event, focus group, once a month. So it's not much of a requirement, but it is a way for us to kind of know that you're staying current with things that are happening. On tomorrow, new contract forms are going to come out, and we're wondering, do you know about those? So maybe you attended something and had some information. So that's the second one. D, complete a 45-hour post-license course if not having done so previously. So I know in your case, Angie, you've done that. And so Why? Well, we want you to have some sense of the fundamentals. If somebody does call in on that phone up there and they need help buying and selling a house, we'd like to know that you can at least fill out the forms and reasonably serve those people. This does not say you have to have transaction experience. It just means you have to have some training. But you're not going to probably be eligible for this on your first day because you haven't had 45 hours and so on. So somebody coming in from another company that's got transaction experience, you're like that. And you've got 25 transactions. We know you know how to do this with or without Ignite. So we're going to get to one of these in a minute. Complete Ignite or have approval from team leader not to. 25 transactions, no problem getting a not to. Okay, Pat, I've got your text. You're up and running. I know you're hearing me. That's a victory for Shawnee and me at the same time. Angie, you're witnessing history in our company. All right, very good. All right, so attend a meeting, complete Ignite. If you've got transaction experience, I think we can easily get that waived. But if you don't have, that's a requirement. I think it's fair. The 45-hour post-class, as I mentioned. On your assigned day, here, this is getting important. On your assigned day, be available to receive calls. So that's part of the conversation we had before this recording started, is what are you about to commit to? Well, on your assigned day, being available to take those calls. You may not get one, but we need you available that day to in case we do. Ensure, here, your voicemail recordings do not indicate that calls will be returned the next day or after a certain time of day. So some people have a recording that says, if you're calling after 7 o'clock, I'm not responding until tomorrow morning after 9 o'clock because I'm with my family. We want that not to be on there because you're when does this happen? It happens after hours. We no longer send the calls to a answering service. It is part of what Grant said a while ago. Now you're answering the calls for some agents where people are calling. So you are doing some of that along the way. It's part of the price to pay to get some of these leads. So ensure your voicemail recordings do not indicate that calls will be returned next day. Always answer the call with, and these are Cheryl's words. She's given them to me herself. It's a great day at Keller Williams. How may I help you? I think I had to change the word may or something. How can? I think she said, no, it's how may I help you? And so it's Valentine's Day today, by the way, and it's a great day at Keller Williams, even on Valentine's Day. I'm sure that's happening out there in Shawnee as well. It's happening here in South Oklahoma City. Now, so how may I help you? Teams are considered as one person for the purpose of this schedule. So it's not as if you can say, okay, I got 5 people on my team and I'm going to have them each have a day. Nope. Your team is one person, one entity, and you're just like one person. So that's what that means. So if the teams want their people on, they designate who it's going to be that day, and that's their day. The rotation will be determined by the number of people participating in the call calendar. Some of why this has come up is that for a little bit, Cheryl had been having trouble filling all the day. In the past, it would be every other month maybe that you might be on the calendar because we had that many people wanting to be on it, and there were no qualifications. They just walked up to Cheryl and said, hey, I'd like to be on it, and bam, you're on it. But then we had issues with regard to how calls were being handled. And so we decided to put some standards in place, and this is what came out of it. So there's a rotation. Right now, the rotation, at least in South Oklahoma City, is about once a month. So we've got 30 some people, and they're landing about once a month. Nobody's needing to do it more than that. And and nobody's needing to wait 2 months to get on it. So that's how the rotation works. Some months you may be scheduled more than once, and other times maybe even less than once a month. H, I'm up to item H up here. Is H on the screen? Let's roll her up. Let's make H on the screen. What's this? I can get H on the screen without being on the thing. Let's get H up there. Still not on the screen. Here it comes. Let's get it up here like this. I know you guys can't see this, but I like knowing that it's on the screen. H, if conflicts with your schedule arise on your appointed date, you're responsible to secure a replacement and notify the call coordinator of who's taking your place. So things come up. Somebody might want to buy a house right about then on your day, and they're in town from out of town, and they need your attention all day. No problem. But if it's your day, it's not somebody else's responsibility to go find a replacement for you. It is your responsibility to just maybe go to Cheryl and say, who are the people that are eligible? And then, or just look at the calendar, because the calendar will have the names of people. And you might just say, well, tomorrow somebody else is on. I think I'll call them and see if I can trade. But that is what is needed to happen. And I've observed Cheryl hunting around for somebody because something came up and they didn't get a backup player. And so she has to get it handled. And by 9 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning, she needs that settled one way or the other. So I don't want her having to deal with that. It's not her responsibility. So I emphasize H just a little bit just on her behalf. Now, we're up to section 3. Section 3. Am I on section 3 yet? I'm past section 3. That's section 3 right there. All right. Section 3. Proper procedures for handling an opportunity call. And this is, we've already talked about Cheryl's words, always answer with, it's a great day at Keller Williams. How may I help you? Because every time your phone rings, if you don't know who that is, that's how you would answer it. Is that making sense? You know, because on that day, it's not just, you know, if you don't know, if mom's calling from a different number, that's how you're going to answer it. So that's the difference. Now, under A, our Keller Williams value and culture are the guiding principles applied on each of these calls, the Y4C2Ts. B, if the call is a potential buyer or seller, ask questions to determine if they are called for a particular agent. Like, are you calling for a particular agent? Have you seen a particular agent sign? Have you been receiving mail from one of our agents? So we're trying to determine, I mean, that's the spirit of the initial reception of the call is, whose call is this? This is it's called a closed floor system, essentially, as far as our business model is concerned, where when you list the house, you get the calls. Whereas I've been in other companies where you get the listings and everybody, if it's just their shift, gets the calls. They're coming off of your sign, your ads, whatever, and the call comes in and they all share. But that's not our system here. We want to reward you for getting the listing by getting you the call, number one. Number two, who's better able to answer the phone and answer the questions than the person that's got the listing? They've seen the house, they know the seller, they know the situation, they actually know how to find it. So that's why we really, for the customer's sake, probably be a better person to handle the call if we have a choice to get that person directed to the person that actually has a listing. Now, so in under C, if the caller is calling about a particular home for sale, get the name, phone number, and email address from the caller. What's your name? How can we contact you? And then tell the caller, here's the words, and they're in bold. Either you or one of your team members will look up the information and call them back within 15 minutes. That I changed arbitrarily just because I typed it up myself so it would be a nice, neat form. The form we had before was a mess. And I think that said 10 minutes. I arbitrarily made it 15. I've kind of had the ALC bless that, because in the reality of all of this, if you're just on the phone with somebody when that call comes in and you're in somebody advises you, you've had a call from, you may take 5, 6, 7 minutes just to get off that phone call. Or who knows what you're doing, but 15 minutes is the standard at this point. You or one of your team members, which means the listing agent probably. But if they don't call you in 15 minutes, I will be calling you back. And I will have the information to help you with it. So that's the thing. We want them served, but we don't want to give them enough time to just go find somebody else at another company to respond to us, because they're calling about that house over there that's got a white trim on it. Oh, you know, the one that's got the blue garage door. I mean, that's those kind of calls, you get them. And so we got to get into it a little more and see if we can figure out which house is it. And if there's a sign and they called off of that number, it's this number, 6912556, for instance. Well, who got that sign up? That ought to be the person that gets the call. But if they're not responding in 15 minutes, we've got procedures. So you and your team will look up the information, call them back within 15 minutes. If you determine the property they are calling about is not listed with an agent in our office, you're then welcome to secure the caller as your client in our office. That means, I mean, I'm just writing what the ALC approved earlier, probably 2 years ago or a year and a half ago. It's another Keller Williams office. I have had a few people say, you know what, I'm going to see if I can get them directed to them. That's just how I think maybe we should do. But that's your call. There's no obligation for you to do that. They're not a part of our company. If it's it's a Northwest office or Edmond or somebody else. But if it's South, Shawnee, Midwest City, that's us. I think we're compelled in that instance to get it to them best we can. But this is saying if it's not within our office or our company, it actually says the word office. I would extend it to the company. You're then welcome to secure that person as a client. If you get the agent's voicemail when you call them, leave a message about the caller with a follow-up text for documentation. So if you get a voicemail, say, hey, you've got a call this morning from somebody on the property at such and such. And then text them after that to say, by the way, I left you a message. You've got a call from somebody on about such and such. The listing agent, then it says within 10 minutes, must confirm that they've received the caller information. So there's the 10 minutes. 10 minutes, they're reconfirming, got it. Then 5 minutes to respond, because we're going to try to get this done in 15 minutes. And so that's why we're having this orientation, to set those standards and do the best we can to honor them. Give or take a minute or two. I think a little grace is probably okay at some point, because you're going to want some yourself at some point. But must confirm they received it. So what we want from either a text or a return call to you is, okay, I got the ball. At that point, you're done. You don't need to worry about it after that. Now, if they call back and say they never called me back, well, maybe then you better take the ball and run with it. But I think that's not going to happen, at least very often. If you do not hear from a listing agent, you can then take the lead and work it. Now, we're talking a 15-minute window, 10 minutes. If they haven't called back, and it's 11 minutes, no call. I guess I better look this information up a little more. You probably have already by then. You've got it on a screen or on your phone or somewhere. You've got some idea what they're calling about. Work it. Now, if, however, the lead turns into a sale or a listing sold, You're agreeing to pay a 25% referral fee to the agent the initial call was intended for. So we're basically acknowledging somebody took the time and energy and marketing to get the listing. You got the benefit of that. They weren't available or didn't respond, but it's not all lost. They're going to get a 25% referral fee off of whatever. If it was a selling side, listing side, whichever side that turns out to be. And regardless of the original intent of the call. Does that make sense?
I have a question.
All right, now hang on just a second. I want you to hang with me right there. I know you guys can't ask a question, but ultimately raise your hand if you've got a question. Okay, hang on a second. It might be the same question Angie's got. Let me find out. Speak up, Angie. Let's ask your question.
My question is, so say the person doesn't answer their phone, I get to work that lead. Do I only pay the 25% if they buy the house that they initially called for, or do I pay 25% no matter what house they buy?
Let's see. If, however, the lead turns into a sale or a listing sold, so they're calling on that property. They don't buy that property.
They buy another property.
They buy another property. You still have that turned into a sale.
Okay.
Excellent question. I'm sure that's one of your questions over there in Midwest City and Shawnee. And so, but you could text me a question if you'd like. But that was Angie's. If it turns into a sale on anything, they bought that listing or they bought anything, and it was a buyer, that's a sale. Turns out they're wanting to list their house. That's why they called. I'm calling. I've got a house to sell. So-and-so's helped me in the past. But they don't respond in 10 minutes. And in 15 minutes, we get back with them and say, well, how can I help you? And then we take the ball and run with it. But now we're going to pay a referral fee, 25% on when that listing sells, because the call was intended for somebody else. All right. Now, down at the bottom, there's a little safety valve that has said, if you are in doubt about how to handle a particular call or situation, contact Vicki Davis or Don Moore for guidance and further direction. I haven't had a call about this. I don't know when. I don't know if I ever have. So it's not something that comes up very often, but I think if there's cloudiness, there's a safety valve to say, hey, text Don or text Vicki and say, how would you like me to handle this? And get a little bit of guidance. Now, all that's left on the bottom of this, it says your signature below is an acknowledgement of receipt of this policy and your agreement to comply with the above stated policies and procedures. So if a person wants to do this, that's all it takes is basically this experience. I think if you guys are hearing this clearly on online here, and somebody can document that you attended this in Shawnee or Midwest City, and you sign this document, we're good. You've attended Ignite or approved not to have to. Angie's going to get approved not to have to because she sold 25 houses without going through Ignite. She's attending meetings. She's done this thing now, and she is well versed on what this takes. Able to make a quality decision about whether I want to commit myself to this or not, because you're committing to it. Now, Angie said a while ago before we started this broadcast, she says, I can do this, and if I don't want to do it anymore, I can just tell them, no, I'm done. I don't think I want to do this anymore. That's true. There's no start or ending date on this. If you want to do it, do it. If you decide you don't want to do it, don't do it. Or if seasons of time happen and you're too busy to do it, and then there's another season comes up, I'm not busy, I need to do it. That's when you can just come off and on. But you're probably going to be a month delayed in terms of getting actually on the calendar. And then depending on how many people are participating, the rotation may affect it too. So there's nothing on the back of this page. We've spent 25 minutes together. We've had one question. I'm going to check my phone. Nothing but Grant Hawkins saying welcome to somebody on it. So that's no further questions. This is probably a 30-minute broadcast. Anything else, Angie? All right. I'm comfortable that we've covered it. This is not rocket science, but it's probably pretty important to just have some discussion as to why we have this to begin with, and we just don't have somebody show up out there. And the various offices, I believe every office has somebody that's on call. And so that's when it's designed to, to help us out so that we don't have answering services. Otherwise, we get an answering services, they take the call, they try to find somebody, they can't find them, then they call somebody that's on call to back them up. This has worked better than what we did previously, the previous about 4 years that I've been here so far. But it requires integrity. It requires our Y4C2Ts. That's why it's mentioned. I'll remind you, Y4C2Ts, win-win or no deal. Integrity, do the right thing. Customer always comes first. Commitment in all things. Communication seeks first to understand before you try to be understood. Creativity, ideas before results. Teamwork, together everyone achieves more. Trust starts with honesty. Success results through people. So we've got integrity to do the right thing. Trust starts with honesty. Those are part of the factors here that we've got to rely on. And we don't hire anybody that doesn't pass that test. So I think we're done. Angie, are we done? Shawnee, congratulations. You've pulled it off. Midwest City, thanks for joining us. I see a couple of you are over there. Corey, thanks for letting me know that. Now, tomorrow I'm going to set this up the same way for this meeting with TJ Courtney from Edmond on the profit share. He's come in, he's been in the business. He was in my Ignite class up there about 3, maybe 4 years ago. He's done very well, former military guy, but I'm anxious to hear what he has to say about how you grow your profit share at a more than average pace. I'd highly encourage you guys to participate in that. And I am going to set this thing up, turn it on. And I can't control where TJ is going to sit or stand or how he's going to look. But I know this, you're going to be able to hear him, if not see him. And I'll set this the same way I have it right now for you guys to participate in that if you can't make it over here, South Oklahoma City. So let's see here. Thank you, Don. We're excited. Pat Hand, Shawnee. Very good. We've done it. This broadcast is about to end. Thank you. It's been a great day at Keller Williams. Happy Valentine's.